The dying fleet commander Kira Then stood on the bridge of the morning light, watching her people die in slow motion. 23 ships. That's all that remained of the Thessian conquered, a civilization that had once spanned 14 worlds and housed 12 billion souls. Now those 23 vessels limped through the void, their hulls scarred by plasma burns, their engines coughing on the last dregs of fuel that would never be replenished. Behind them, somewhere in the endless dark, the consuming swarm pursued. "Commander, we're losing the Brightwing," her second officer Talus reported. His voice carried the hollow tone of someone who'd delivered too much bad news. "Their reactor is failing. They request permission to go dark and drift." Kira closed her eyes. The Brightwing carried 3,000 refugees, mostly children and elders who'd survived the fall of Thessia Prime. Going dark meant death, just slower than the alternative. "Granted," she whispered. Tell them they'll be remembered." Through the viewport she watched the Brightwing's lights flicker and die. Another ghost ship added to their fleet of the damned. 22 vessels now. How long until they were 21? 20? Until she stood alone in the dark, the last. "Thessian alive?" "Proximity alert," the navigation officer called out. "We're approaching an uncharted system. G-type star, multiple planets I'm detecting." "Wait." Her bioluminescent patterns, the Thessian equivalent of facial expressions, flared with surprise. "I'm detecting electromagnetic signatures, advanced technology. There's a civilization here." Kira felt hope and dread twist together in her chest. Another civilization meant potential refuge, or another species that would turn them away. The Azrathi had refused them. The Vryn collective had fired warning shots across their bow. The galaxy, it seemed, had no room for the desperate. "Analysis," Kira commanded. "Third planet from the star. Oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, liquid water, extensive industrial development. They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies. Primitive, radio waves, quantum entanglement, comm traffic, everything in between. Commander, they're in their early space age, maybe 500 years into it, judging by their infrastructure. A young species. That could work in their favor. Younger civilizations sometimes retained their idealism. Or it could doom them entirely. Young species were also territorial, paranoid, and prone to shooting first. "Do we have enough power to reach them?" Kira asked. Talus checked his console. "Barely. If we commit to that trajectory now, we won't have fuel to leave if they refuse us." Kira looked at the faces around her bridge. Her crew, her people, her responsibility. They were exhausted, starving, broken. She thought of the children in the Brightwing, now floating dark and cold through space. She thought of Thessia Prime, burning under the swarm's assault while she'd led the evacuation fleet away, leaving billions behind. She couldn't save everyone. But maybe, just maybe, she could save these last few thousand. "Set course," she commanded, "and broadcast on all frequencies. Tell them we come in peace. Tell them we're refugees. Tell them we're begging for mercy." First contact. The signal reached Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station Kepler-7 at 0314 hours GMT. Dr. Sarah Mitchell was 3 hours into a boring night shift, half dozing over her coffee, when every alarm in the facility started screaming at once. "Holy shit!" Her colleague, David Chen, jerked upright at his console. "Sarah, are you seeing this?" She was seeing it. 22 distinct signatures broadcasting across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. The mathematical precision of the signals screamed, "Artificial." The content made her blood run cold. A video feed materialized on her primary screen. The being on the other end was humanoid but decidedly alien. Tall and slender, with skin that shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, forearms and large eyes that seemed to hold entire galaxies of sorrow. "People of the third planet," the alien said in a voice that harmonized with itself, as if multiple beings spoke as one. "My name is Kira Then, commander of what remains of the Thessian Concord. We are refugees fleeing extinction. Our homeworld has fallen to an ancient enemy. Our people are dying. We do not come to conquer or to take. We come begging for sanctuary. We ask only for shelter, for time to heal, for a chance to survive. If you cannot help us, we understand. But please, please do not fire upon us. Let us pass through your system in peace. We have children aboard. They've already lost their world. Don't make them lose their lives." The transmission ended. Sarah and David stared at each other in stunned silence. "This is..." David struggled for words. "This is first contact. Actual first contact. And they're asking us for help." Sarah was already reaching for the emergency protocol communicator. "Wake up the UN Secretary General. Wake up everyone. We have refugees at our door." Within 2 hours, the hastily assembled UN First Contact Committee convened in virtual space. Representatives from every major nation, military advisors, xenobiologists, linguists, and more, filled the quantum-encrypted channel. Admiral Marcus Cole of the United Earth Space Force spoke first. "We've confirmed 22 vessels ranging from what appear to be colony ships to a few light warships. They're in bad shape. Hull breaches, failing power systems, minimal life support. Their trajectory will bring them to lunar orbit in approximately 16 hours if they maintain current speed." "What do we know about this enemy they're fleeing?" asked Ambassador Li Wei of the Chinese delegation. "Nothing concrete," responded Dr. Elena Rodriguez, head of the hastily formed Xenobiology Task Force. "But their fear is genuine. The bio readings we're getting from their ships show elevated stress hormones across the board. They're traumatized." "Could this be a trick?" someone asked. "A Trojan horse scenario?" Admiral Cole shook his head. "If they wanted to attack us, they'd have done it already. Their warships, damaged as they are, still carry weapons that could glass our cities. Instead, they're broadcasting their distress on every channel and moving slowly enough to give us time to respond." Secretary General Amara Okafor spoke, her voice cutting through the debate. "The question before us is simple. What kind of species do we want to be? We've spent centuries dreaming about the day we'd meet alien life. We've built entire philosophies around how we'd conduct ourselves among the stars. Now we have our answer staring us in the face. They're not conquerors. They're not traitors. They're refugees, exhausted, frightened people who need help." She paused. "I say we give it to them." The vote wasn't unanimous, but it was decisive. 3 hours later, Sarah Mitchell transmitted Earth's response. The unexpected answer Kira had not expected to survive long enough to hear a reply. She sat in her command chair, watching her people ration the last of their food supplies, listening to the reports of failing systems throughout the fleet. The Crystal Dawn had lost life support on 3 decks. The Wanderer's Hope reported 17 dead from radiation exposure when their shielding failed. They were so close to the blue planet now, close enough to see its white clouds, its vast oceans, its single large moon, close enough to dream. Then her communications officer's patterns flared bright. "Commander, incoming transmission!" The screen flickered to life, revealing a human woman in what appeared to be a military uniform. She had dark skin, kind eyes, and a calm demeanor that somehow transcended species barriers. "Commander Then, my name is Admiral Chen Wei of the United Earth Space Force. On behalf of humanity and the United Nations, I want to first say, welcome to the Sol system. We've received your message and reviewed your situation." She leaned forward slightly. "Commander, we're not going to turn you away. We're not going to make you leave. You asked for shelter. We're going to give you a home." Kira felt something break inside her chest. Around the bridge, her crew's bioluminescent patterns flared with emotions they'd forgotten they could feel. "We're transmitting coordinates now," Admiral Chen continued. "Luna Station, our facility in orbit around Earth's moon. It's our largest civilian installation, built to house 50,000 workers during our lunar mining operations. Most of those facilities are currently empty due to budget cuts. You can use them. Bring your ships there. We'll have medical teams, engineers, and supplies waiting. We'll help you repair your vessels, treat your injured, feed your people." "But," Kira found her voice, "why? You don't know us. We could be dangerous. We could bring our enemy to your door." Admiral Chen smiled. "You could. Probably will, honestly, but that's tomorrow's problem. Today's problem is that you have people who need help, and we have the means to help them. That's enough." She paused. "Besides, Commander, we're human. Helping people who need it is kind of our thing, for better or worse. I don't. Kira's voice cracked. We have nothing to offer you in return. No technology you don't possess. No resources to trade. We're broken, Admiral. We're the survivors of a dead world. Then we'll help you build a new one, Chen replied simply. Come home, Commander Then. You and your people have been running long enough. The transmission ended. Kira sat in silence. Tears. Actual tears. Something Thessians only did in moments of profound emotion, streaming down her face. Navigation, she finally whispered. Set course for Luna Station, all ships, send to the fleet, we're going home. Galactic reaction. The news rippled through the Galactic Assembly like a shockwave. Ambassador Vreeth of the Azrathi Empire stood before the gathered delegates, his crystalline form refracting the chamber's light into patterns of disapproval. The humans have done what? His translator barked. The Assembly's speaker, an ancient Quarren whose species had witnessed 10,000 years of galactic politics, displayed the data feed from Sol system. The species designated as humanity has granted full asylum to the Thessian refugees. They've offered one of their primary orbital installations as permanent housing, and have committed significant resources to the refugees' care. Vreeth's patterns shifted to disbelief. They're newcomers. They've been in space for barely 5 centuries. They don't understand what they've done. They understand perfectly, said Counselor Jarix of the Vrin Collective, her multiple voice tendrils undulating. They were informed of the swarm threat. They were warned that harboring Thessian refugees would make them targets. They chose to help anyway. Fools, Vreeth hissed. Naive, idealistic fools. The swarm will come. It always comes. And when it does, these humans will learn what the rest of us already know. Compassion is a luxury the galaxy cannot afford. But in the back channels, away from official records, other conversations were happening. Species that had turned away refugees, that had closed their borders and built their walls, watched Earth's actions with something that might have been shame. On the human dreadnought Indomitable stationed at Sol's heliopause, Admiral Chen reviewed tactical reports with her staff. They detected long-range scanner probes at the system's edge, the swarm no doubt tracking their prey. How long? She asked her tactical officer. 3 months, maybe 4. That's when they'll arrive in force. Chen nodded slowly. Then we have 3 months to prepare. Get me the Secretary General, and someone find out how quickly we can mobilize the reserve fleet. She looked at the image of Luna Station on her display, now crawling with both human and Thessian workers, already beginning the repairs and expansions. We made them a promise. We're damn well going to keep it. On Luna Station, Kira Then stood in an observation deck, watching Earth rotate below. Beside her, a human child, no more than 6 years old, stood next to a Thessian youngling of similar age. Both pressed their faces against the transparent aluminum, pointing at clouds and land masses, chattering in a mixture of broken English and Thessian. Thank you, Kira said softly to the human engineer standing nearby. For all of this. The engineer, a woman named Maria Santos, shrugged with a smile. We're just doing what's right. Besides, she gestured at the children. Looks like they're already figuring out they're not so different after all. Kira watched the children laugh together, and for the first time since Thessia fell, she allowed herself to hope. The swarm was coming, but they wouldn't face it alone. Not anymore. Building together, 3 months could change everything. Kira Then had learned this truth watching Luna Station transform from a half-empty industrial complex into something extraordinary. A true fusion of 2 civilizations working toward a common purpose. She walked through Section 7's main corridor, marveling at the changes. Where once there had been bare metal walls and emergency lighting, now there were murals. Human children and Thessian younglings had painted them together, creating swirling patterns that merged Earth's blues and greens with Thessia's remembered violet skies. The bioluminescent paints the Thessians contributed made the artwork glow softly in the dimmer sections, creating a path of light through the station. Commander, Then, a voice called out. Maria Santos jogged up, her engineering tablet clutched in one hand. You need to see what we've accomplished in the hydroponics bay. Kira followed her through the winding passages. The station had become a maze of collaboration. Human engineers worked alongside Thessian technicians, learning each other's systems, finding unexpected synergies. The Thessians' expertise in biological systems complemented humanity's mechanical engineering brilliance. Where humans built with steel and circuits, Thessians shaped with living materials and genetic design. The hydroponics bay had once been a simple food production facility. Now it was a cathedral of life. Massive vertical gardens stretched toward the ceiling, combining earth crops with Thessian flora. Rice paddies flowed into beds of Kalesh grain. Tomato plants intertwined with ven fruit vines. Human agronomists and Thessian gene shapers had spent weeks testing soil compositions, light frequencies, and nutrient mixtures. But it was the scene at the garden's center that made Kira's bioluminescent patterns pulse with joy. Children, dozens of them, human and Thessian, playing in a carefully maintained clearing. They chased each other through the crops, careful not to damage the plants, their laughter echoing through the vast space. A human boy taught a group of Thessian younglings how to kick a soccer ball. A Thessian child demonstrated the complex hand-pattern games her people had played for generations, her human friends struggling to match the four-handed movements with their two. They don't see the differences anymore, Maria said softly. To them, they're just kids, playing together. Dr. James Porter, the station's chief medical officer, approached with Kira's own medical advisor, Healer Thesson. The two had become inseparable over the past months. Commander, Porter said, we've had a breakthrough. Thesson and I have been studying our respective biologies. Did you know that despite our different evolutionary paths, our cellular structures have remarkable similarities? We've successfully synthesized medications that work for both species. Thesson's patterns rippled with pride. More than that, we've created hybrid treatments that are more effective than either species' medicine alone. Human pharmaceutical development combined with Thessian bioadaptation techniques. The possibilities are extraordinary. In the engineering section, Admiral Chen Wei stood with Talus reviewing the station's defensive improvements. The Thessians had shared their shield technology, energy barriers that could absorb and redistribute incoming fire. The humans had contributed their point defense systems, rapid-fire railguns that could shred incoming missiles. Your kinetic weapons are brutal, Talus admitted, his patterns showing respect. We've always relied on energy weapons, but these railguns, the swarm's organic armor won't know what hit it. Chen smiled grimly. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, but if it does, we'll be ready. She pulled up a holographic display of the Sol system. Red markers indicated the defensive perimeter they'd established, a network of weapons platforms, sensor arrays, and mobile fleet elements stretching from the asteroid belt to beyond Neptune's orbit. We've tripled our defensive capabilities in 3 months, Chen explained. But it's not just the weapons. Your people have taught us things about space warfare we never imagined. The way you use gravitational wells, the precision of your sensor arrays, your understanding of swarm tactics. And you've taught us about courage, Talus interrupted quietly. About standing and fighting when running would be easier. About protecting those who cannot protect themselves. In the station's makeshift school, human teacher Rebecca Winters stood before a mixed classroom. She'd learned enough Thessian to teach basic concepts, while the Thessian students had picked up English with remarkable speed. So, she said, pointing to a display showing both Earth and the holographic reconstruction of Thessia Prime, what makes a place home? A human girl raised her hand. It's where your family is. A Thessian youngling's patterns flickered thoughtfully. It's where you feel safe. Another human boy. It's where people know your name. A Thessian child, one of the youngest survivors. It's where someone will catch you when you fall. Rebecca felt tears prick her eyes. Yes, all of those things. And you know what? I think we're building that here. Together. In the station's command center, Kira met with her remaining ship captains and Admiral Chen's staff for the daily briefing. These meetings had become routine, a blend of military readiness, civilian logistics, and cultural coordination. "The Crystal Dawn is back to full operational status," reported Captain Seren. "Your human engineers performed miracles with our propulsion systems." "The Wanderer's Hope finished crew integration today," added another captain. "We now have human crew members working alongside our own. They're surprisingly good at adapting to our systems." Admiral Chen nodded. "We've been cross-training both ways. Thessians on human vessels, humans on yours. When the swarm arrives, we need to operate as one fleet, not two." Speaking of the swarm, her tactical officer interrupted. "Our deep space sensors detected another probe cluster at the heliopause. They're getting bolder. I estimate we have 3 weeks, maybe less." The room fell silent. Kira looked around at the faces, human and Thessian alike. 3 months ago, they'd been strangers. Now they were something more. Something the galaxy hadn't seen in a long time. "Then we use these 3 weeks wisely," Kira said. "Continue the integration, continue the preparations, and continue building what we've started here. Whether we have 3 weeks or 3 years, we're not going to waste a single day." That evening, Kira stood in her quarters, a space the humans had modified to suit Thessian needs, with bioluminescent panels and the slightly higher humidity her people preferred. On her desk sat 2 items, a hollow image of Thessia Prime before the fall, and a photograph a human child had given her, a crayon drawing of Luna Station with the words "Our Home" written across the top in shaky letters. She touched both, feeling the weight of 2 worlds on her shoulders. Outside her window, Earth rotated in silent beauty. Somewhere out in the dark, the swarm was coming. But here, in this moment, 2 species that had every reason to be strangers had instead chosen to become family. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The swarm's demand, the alarm that shattered Luna Station's night cycle, was one they'd drilled for but hoped never to hear. Kira was in the command center within 90 seconds, still fastening her uniform. Admiral Chen arrived moments later, her gray hair uncombed but her eyes sharp and alert. "Report," Chen barked. "Multiple hyperspace ruptures at the system's edge," the sensor officer called out. 47. No, 53 distinct signatures. Mass readings consistent with swarm-heavy cruisers and assault carriers. Kira felt ice flood her veins. She'd seen fleets like this before. This was how Thessia Prime had died. The main display lit up with the approaching armada. The ships were organic nightmares, living vessels grown rather than built, their hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that mocked the peaceful lights of Luna Station. They moved with predatory grace, their formations tight and purposeful. "They're holding position at Neptune's orbit," Tactical reported. "No advance yet." "They're waiting, hailing us," Communications added. "Audio and visual. Should I put it through?" Chen looked at Kira. "Your call, Commander. They're here for your people." Kira's patterns flickered with resolve. "Put it through. Let's see what they want." The screen resolved into an image that haunted every Thessian's nightmares. Overseer Vexthar of the consuming swarm filled the display, a towering mass of chitin and biomechanical integration, its multiple eyes glowing with cold intelligence. Behind it, Kira could see ranks of swarm warriors, their organic weapons grafted directly to their bodies. Commander Kira Then. Vexthar's voice was like grinding metal. "We meet again. You've led us on quite the chase across the stars, Vexithar." Kira kept her voice steady despite the terror clawing at her chest. "Why have you followed us here? You've already taken everything. Let these few survivors go." "You know better than that, Commander. Your people possess knowledge of the swarm. You've seen our tactics, our technology, our weaknesses. We cannot allow that information to spread." The Overseer's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "But we are not without mercy. Surrender yourselves and your vessels. Your deaths will be quick. Refuse and we will take you by force and destroy whatever primitive species has been foolish enough to shelter you." Admiral Chen stepped forward, her voice cutting across the transmission. "This is Admiral Chen Wei of the United Earth Space Force. The Thessian refugees are under our protection. You have entered sovereign human territory without permission. You have 10 minutes to withdraw your vessels beyond the heliopause, or we will consider your presence an act of war." Vexthar's eyes focused on Chen with sudden interest. Ah, the natives. Tell me, Admiral, do your people understand what they've involved themselves in? The swarm has consumed civilizations that spanned centuries. Your species has barely left its cradle. You offer us 10 minutes? We offer you one chance. Deliver the Thessians and we will depart. Your world will be spared. Refuse and we will teach you the price of harboring our prey. Our answer is no, Chen said flatly. The Thessians stay. You leave. Those are your options. Then you have chosen extinction. Vexthar leaned closer to the screen. We will give you 6 hours to reconsider. When that time expires, we will advance. Your primitive weapons will not stop us. Your fragile station will burn. And when we take the Thessians from the ashes of your civilization, know that their suffering will be prolonged because you forced us to expend effort retrieving them. The transmission cut out. The command center erupted in controlled chaos. Officers calling out readings, updating tactical displays, coordinating fleet positions. But Kira barely heard it. She stood frozen, watching the swarm armada on the display. This is my fault, she whispered. We brought this to your door. Chen turned to her, and Kira was shocked to see not fear or anger in the Admiral's eyes, but something else entirely. Determination. Commander Then, I need you to understand something about humanity. We're stubborn. Some might say stupidly so. Chen pulled up an image on a side display. Ancient Earth history. Human soldiers holding a position against overwhelming odds. Throughout our history, we've had this bad habit of deciding something is worth fighting for and then refusing to back down, no matter the odds. We've held beaches. We've defended cities. We've stood at mountain passes and frozen rivers and told empires. This far, no further. She switched the image to show Luna Station, with its mixed human Thessian crew working together. You didn't bring this to our door, Commander. You brought us family. You brought us purpose. You brought us something worth fighting for. Chen's smile was fierce. And now that asshole out there thinks he can threaten our family? Oh, we're going to teach him exactly what humanity does when someone threatens our own. Humanity's line. The Emergency Council convened in holographic space. Every major human leader, military commander and diplomatic representative manifesting in the virtual chamber. The Thessian captains were included, their bioluminescent forms translating clearly through the quantum network. Secretary General Okafor opened the session. The situation is clear. The swarm has given us 6 hours. They want us to hand over the Thessians. Admiral Chen, what are our military options? Chen pulled up tactical displays that materialized in the center of the chamber. The swarm fleet is formidable, 53 heavy vessels with approximately 200,000 combat troops. Our combined fleet, human and Thessian vessels, numbers 92 ships, but many of those are smaller craft. She highlighted positions throughout the Sol system. However, we have advantages. We're fighting in our home system. We know every asteroid, every gravitational well, every hiding spot. We've spent 3 months fortifying our positions and integrating our technologies. What are our chances? Asked General Mahmoud of the African Union Defense Force. Chen didn't hesitate. In a straight fight? 30%. Maybe 40 if everything goes perfectly, the council murmured. Those were not good odds. Kira stepped forward, her patterns flickering with agitation. Please, you don't have to do this. My people can leave. We can take what ships we have and lead the swarm away. Better we die alone in the void than bring destruction to your world. No. The voice came from an unexpected source. Rebecca Winters, the school teacher, attending as a civilian representative. No, Commander. You don't get to make that choice alone. Those kids in my classroom, the human and Thessian children playing together, they're not going to grow up in a universe where we teach them that the right thing to do is abandon people when things get hard. Maria Santos, representing the engineering corps, nodded vigorously. We've spent 3 months building something incredible together. We've merged our technologies, our cultures, our hopes. You're not leaving. Period. But the cost, Kira began, is ours to pay, Okafor interrupted gently but firmly. Commander Then, 3 months ago we made a decision about who we wanted to be as a species. We chose compassion. We chose to help. And now we choose to stand by that decision. She looked around the council. I'm calling for a vote. The question is simple. Do we surrender the Thessian refugees to avoid conflict, or do we defend them regardless of the cost? The vote was unanimous. Not a single dissenting voice. Okafor turned back to Chen. Admiral, you have full authorization to defend Luna Station and the Thessian refugees by any means necessary. The entire United Earth Space Force is at your command. Show the swarm what happens when they threaten our family. The council dissolved, leaving Chen and her military staff to plan. Kira remained, her patterns dim with guilt and gratitude. I still don't understand, Kira said quietly. Why risk everything for us? Chen smiled, pulling up an image on her personal display, a photograph of her own family. I have a daughter, Commander. She's 7. She's in that school with your younglings, learning about 2 cultures instead of 1. Yesterday she came home excited because a Thessian child taught her a song from your homeworld.
She sang it at dinner. Got all the harmonics wrong, but she tried so hard. Chen's eyes met Kira's. When I looked at her singing that alien song with such joy, I realized something.
This isn't about politics or military strategy or even survival. This is about the kind of universe we're building. Do we build one where my daughter learns that we abandon people when it's convenient? Or do we build one where she learns that protecting others is worth fighting for, even when it's hard? She stood straighter, her admiral's bearing returning. The swarm thinks we're weak because we chose compassion. They're about to learn that our compassion is exactly what makes us dangerous, because we're not just fighting for territory or resources. We're fighting for our family and humans. We're really good at protecting our family. In the engineering bays, the final preparations continued. Human and Thessian crews worked side by side, loading weapons, reinforcing shields, running system checks. The integration was complete. Each ship now carried mixed crews, combining human tactical aggression with Thessian defensive sophistication. On the Indomitable, Chen's flagship, the crew made their own preparations. In the hangar bay, pilots checked their fighters, sleek human designs now equipped with Thessian shield generators. In engineering, technicians calibrated the hybrid weapon systems that combined human railgun technology with Thessian energy focusing. And in a quiet corner of Luna Station, in that hydroponics bay where children had played just hours before, the younglings were being evacuated to the deepest, most protected sections of the facility. Rebecca Winters held a crying Thessian child while a human boy gripped her other hand. Will the bad things come here? The boy asked. Maybe, Rebecca answered honestly. But there are a lot of very brave people who won't let them hurt you. Human and Thessian all working together, like family? The Thessian child asked in halting English. Exactly like family, Rebecca confirmed. As the 6-hour deadline approached, Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the swarm fleet on her displays. Beside her, Kira monitored the Thessian squadron's readiness. All fleet elements reporting ready, the tactical officer announced. Human vessels at full combat status, Thessian vessels integrated and standing by, defense platforms online, minefield active. We're as ready as we'll ever be, Admiral, Chen nodded, then opened a general channel, one that would broadcast to every human and Thessian vessel, to Luna Station, to Earth itself, and yes, to the swarm fleet watching from the dark. This is Admiral Chen Wei of the United Earth Space Force. 3 months ago, desperate refugees came to our door asking for help. We said yes. Today those refugees' enemies have come to our door demanding we betray that promise. And today we say no. She paused, letting the words carry across the void. To the Thessians among us, you are not alone. To the swarm, you chose the wrong species to threaten. To all of humanity, show them what we're made of. All ships, battle stations, Luna Station go to full defensive protocols, and someone tell that overseer his 6 hours are up. Time for him to learn about humanity's line in the sand. On every human vessel, on Luna Station, in the command centers on Earth, the same message appeared in bold letters. They asked for shelter. We gave them home. Now we defend it. The swarm began its advance, and humanity, with their Thessian family beside them, rose to meet it. The Battle of Sol the Swarm came like a living wave of death. 53 vessels accelerated from Neptune's orbit, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescence as they charged their weapons. Behind them, smaller craft, thousands of fighters and boarding pods, swarmed like insects around a hive. On the Indomitable's bridge, Admiral Chen watched the display with calculated calm. Steady. Let them commit to their approach vector. Tactical, are the mines in position? Confirmed, Admiral. The asteroid belt is ready. Chen smiled coldly. Then let's welcome them to Sol. Activate the minefield. Throughout the asteroid belt, seemingly scattered randomly among the tumbling rocks. Thousands of mines suddenly came to life. They were a hybrid design, human nuclear warheads wrapped in Thessian energy-focusing shells that would direct the blast into concentrated beams. The swarm fleet hit the minefield at full speed. Space erupted in fury. Nuclear fire blossomed into existence, but instead of expanding equally in all directions, the Thessian focusing shells channeled the explosions into devastating lances of superheated plasma. 3 swarm-heavy cruisers died in the first 5 seconds, their organic armor boiling away under the onslaught. 2 more were crippled, spinning off course with their bioluminescent patterns flickering in death throes. "First blood to us," Chen's tactical officer reported. "But they're adapting. The remaining ships are dispersing formation and using point defense to clear the minefield ahead of them." "Expected," Chen replied. "All fleet elements execute pattern Delta. Let's show them what happens when you fight in someone else's home." The human Thessian fleet had been positioned throughout the asteroid belt, hidden among the tumbling rocks. Now they struck from multiple angles simultaneously. Human destroyers burst from concealment, their railguns spitting tungsten slugs at a significant fraction of light speed. The kinetic rounds punched through swarm armor with brutal efficiency. There was no energy shield to dissipate, no electromagnetic countermeasure to deploy. Just raw kinetic energy, converting to heat and devastation on impact. Simultaneously, Thessian cruisers opened fire with their plasma cannons, the superheated bolts of energy precisely targeted at the wounds the railguns had created. The combination was devastating, human weapons to breach, Thessian weapons to burn. 4 more swarm vessels down, Tactical reported, but they're returning fire. Brace for impact. The swarm's response was horrifyingly effective. Bioplasma weapons, grown rather than built, launched projectiles that tracked targets like living things. They twisted through space, pursuing human ships with predatory intelligence. "Evasive," Shen commanded. But 3 human frigates were too slow. The bioplasma struck, eating through their hulls like acid, the organic compounds bonding to the metal and continuing to burn. 1 frigate lost life support. Another's reactor went critical. The 3rd managed to activate its Thessian shields just in time, the energy barrier absorbing most of the damage. "Launch all fighters," Chen ordered, "and deploy the surprise we've been saving." From the carriers hidden on the far side of Luna, hundreds of human fighters launched, but they weren't alone. Mixed formations of human and Thessian pilots streaked into battle, their craft sharing targeting data in real time through integrated systems. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, piloting a human F-290 fighter, found herself flying wing with a Thessian pilot named Jareth. "All right, new friend," she called over the comm. "Let's see if this integration training was worth it. You handle defense, I'll handle offense." "Agreed, human Sarah," Jareth responded, his translator rendering the harmonics of his native language. "Your aggressive tactics with my shielding. The swarm will not know what struck them." They dove into the battle together, Sarah's fighter weaving between swarm vessels while her railguns chewed through fighter craft. Jareth's shields absorbed incoming fire, his Thessian reflexes predicting attack patterns that his human wingmate then exploited. Together they were devastating, but the swarm was adapting. Overseer Vexthar, aboard his command vessel, analyzed the battle data with cold efficiency. "They fight well together, these humans and Thessians," he transmitted to his sub-commanders. "Better than anticipated. Deploy the assault carriers. We will board their station directly. Let us see how they fight when we bring the battle to their civilians." 20 swarm assault carriers broke from the main fleet, accelerating toward Luna Station on a direct vector. Their hulls split open, revealing thousands of boarding pods, organic capsules that would attach to the station's hull and burn through, delivering swarm warriors directly into the habitat sections. On Luna Station, Kira watched the approaching threat with horror. "They're going for the station. Admiral, they're targeting the civilian sections." "I see them," Chen replied grimly. "Luna Station, this is indomitable. Activate Protocol Guardian." Throughout Luna Station, doors sealed, bulkheads slammed shut. And in the civilian sections, automated defenses came online. Not just human technology, but integrated Thessian biosensors that could detect swarm genetic markers. More importantly, the human Marines and Thessian security forces took their positions. For 3 months they'd trained together for exactly this scenario. Human tactical aggression, combined with Thessian defensive doctrine. Humans with their projectile weapons and Thessians with their energy shields working in concert. Sergeant Mike Torres checked his assault rifle one last time, standing beside Thessian warrior Guardian Shen. Well, buddy, looks like it's time to see if all that training pays off. Shen's patterns flickered with determination. We protect the younglings, Sergeant Mike. This is all that matters. The swarm will not reach them. The first boarding pods hit the station's hull with sickening thuds. Biomechanical drills screamed as they began cutting through the reinforced panels. In the hydroponics bay, now converted to a civilian shelter, Rebecca Winters held the children close as the lights flickered. Human and Thessian younglings clung to each other, their fear transcending species. "Stay quiet," Rebecca whispered. "Stay together. The soldiers will protect us." The pods breached. Swarm warriors poured into Luna Station's corridors, nightmarish amalgamations of insectoid armor and biomechanical weapons. They'd expected terrified civilians, easy prey. Instead, they found humans and Thessians fighting side by side. The corridor battles were brutal. Human Marines laid down suppressing fire with their rifles while Thessian warriors erected energy shields, creating mobile cover. The swarm warriors were deadly, but the defenders had something the swarm didn't understand. They were fighting for their children. For their home. For each other. "Grenade out," Torres shouted, lobbing an explosive around a corner. Shen's shield absorbed the backblast while 3 swarm warriors were shredded by the explosion. "Nice throw, Sergeant Mike." "Thanks, your shields are pretty handy too." Throughout the station, the pattern repeated. Defenders fell, but they made the swarm pay for every meter. The younglings in the hydroponics bay could hear the distant sounds of combat. The crack of rifles, the hum of energy weapons, the screeching of swarm warriors. Back in space, the main battle raged. Chen's fleet had inflicted terrible damage on the swarm, but they'd taken casualties too. 14 human vessels were destroyed or disabled. 8 Thessian ships were gone. The math was grinding toward an ugly conclusion. Then Talus, monitoring long-range sensors from his position on a Thessian cruiser, detected something. "Admiral, I'm picking up hyperspace signatures." Multiple contacts emerging from jump at the system's edge. Chen felt her heart sink. Reinforcements. The swarm had called for reinforcements. They were finished. Identifying. Talus paused, his patterns flaring with shocked hope. "Admiral, they're not swarm. I'm reading Vryn collective signatures. And Azrathi, and, by the ancestors, half the Galactic Assembly is jumping into Sol system." The display updated, showing dozens of new contacts. Ships from civilizations across the galaxy. Species that had turned away refugees, that had closed their borders, that had chosen pragmatism over compassion. A transmission came through. Ambassador Vrith of the Azrathi Empire, his crystalline form somehow managing to look sheepish. "Admiral Chen, this is Ambassador Vrith. The Galactic Assembly has been watching your defense, watching humans and Thessians fight together, watching you risk everything for refugees you'd known for only months." His patterns shifted with something that might have been shame. "We were wrong. About compassion being a luxury. About refugees being a burden. You've shown us something we'd forgotten, that protecting others is what makes a civilization worth preserving. The Assembly has voted. We're here to help." More transmissions flooded in. Vryn warships moving to engage the swarm's flanks. Azrathi carriers launching fighters. Species that had watched in judgment now watched in admiration, and acted. The Battle of Sol turned in that moment. The swarm, caught between Earth's defenders and the arriving assembly fleet, found itself trapped. Vexthar's confident assault became a desperate retreat. Aftermath and new beginning overseer Vexthar, aboard his dying command vessel, stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His fleet, the mighty swarm that had consumed civilizations, was being systematically destroyed by a coalition of species that should have been bickering among themselves, but they weren't bickering. They were coordinated, united, fighting together with the same determination he'd seen in the humans and Thessians. "Fall back," he commanded, his voice carrying defeat for the first time in his long existence. "Retreat beyond the heliopause. We cannot win this." The surviving swarm vessels, barely 20 of the original 53, burned hard for the system's edge, harried by pursuit craft. The swarm had been bloodied. More importantly, they'd been taught a lesson. On Luna Station, the defenders secured the last corridor. Sergeant Torres and warrior Guardian Shen stood back to back, surrounded by fallen swarm warriors. Both were wounded, but both were alive. We did it, Torres breathed, sliding down the wall to sit. We actually held them. Shen settled beside him, his patterns dim with exhaustion but bright with pride. We protected them. The younglings are safe. In the hydroponics bay, Rebecca released the breath she'd been holding as the all-clear sounded. The children erupted in relieved tears and laughter. Human and Thessian younglings hugging each other without distinction. On the Indomitable's bridge, Admiral Chen watched the swarm fleet retreat, then turned to the display showing the assembly vessels holding position. Ambassador Vreeth, she transmitted. Thank you. Your timing was convenient. Vreeth's patterns showed embarrassment. We've been watching since the swarm arrived, debating, arguing, and then we watched you refuse to surrender. Watched humans and Thessians fight together, die together. We realized we were witnessing something the galaxy hadn't seen in millennia. True courage. Compassion backed by the will to defend it. He paused. You've changed something, Admiral. Not just in this system, but across the galaxy. Species are already petitioning to follow your example. The transmission ended, and Chen turned to find Kira standing beside her, the Thessian commander's patterns brilliant with unshed tears. You didn't have to do this, Kira whispered. Any of this. We were strangers, refugees, a burden. Chen smiled tiredly. No, Commander. You were family who hadn't met yet. There's a difference. 3 weeks later, ceremony took place in the rebuilt main concourse of Luna Station, now officially renamed Haven Station, by unanimous vote of both human and Thessian councils. Secretary General Okafor stood before the assembled crowd, thousands of humans and Thessians, with holographic representations of species from across the galaxy watching. The walls were covered in the murals the children had painted, now supplemented with new ones commemorating the battle. 3 months ago, Okafor began, refugees came to our door. Today we dedicate this station not as a temporary shelter, but as a permanent home, a symbol that compassion and courage can coexist, that protecting others doesn't make us weak, it makes us stronger. Kira stepped forward, her patterns radiant. On behalf of the Thessian people, I want to say, thank you. You gave us more than shelter. You gave us hope. You gave us family. You showed us that even in the darkest times, there are those who will stand and say this far, no further. She gestured to the crowd where human and Thessian families stood together, mixed crews who'd fought side by side, now building lives together. We came seeking refuge. You answered with kindness and dreadnoughts. Both were necessary. Both were gifts beyond measure. The ceremony concluded with the unveiling of a memorial, a massive sculpture created jointly by human and Thessian artists. It showed 2 figures, one human and one Thessian, standing back to back, shields raised, protecting a group of children huddled at their feet. The inscription read simply, "They asked for shelter. We built them home. Together we defended it." Below that, the names of every human and Thessian who died in the battle were engraved in both species' languages. As the crowd dispersed, Admiral Chen found herself in the observation deck, watching Earth rotate below. Maria Santos joined her, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Quite a day, Maria said, handing Chen a cup. Quite a 3 months, Chen corrected. She pulled up a data pad showing the flood of messages Earth had received. 17 species have petitioned for diplomatic relations. 9 are asking about our refugee policies. 3 are requesting military cooperation treaties. We've become famous, Maria observed. We've become an example, Chen corrected. The galaxy watched us choose compassion over convenience, choose to fight for others instead of just ourselves. That matters more than any treaty. In the school section, Rebecca Winters watched her students, human and Thessian children, now fluent in each other's languages, work on a joint project about their family history. Group was interviewing the Marines and warriors who'd defended the station. Another was documenting the engineering achievements. A third was collecting stories from both Earth and Thessia. A human girl raised her hand. Teacher Rebecca? My Thessian friend Kira says that before they came here, they thought the galaxy had no place for them, that nobody cared, but we showed them family cares. Did we do good? Rebecca smiled through sudden tears. Yes, sweetie. We did very, very good. That evening, Kira stood in her quarters, now truly feeling like home rather than temporary shelter, reviewing the day's events. A chime at her door announced Admiral Chen's arrival. "I thought you might want company," Chen said, holding up a bottle of wine and what appeared to be Thessian shimmer nectar. "Seems appropriate to toast what we've built." They sat together, looking out at Earth and the stars beyond. "You know what I realized today?" Kira said softly. "Thessia Prime fell because we stood alone. We thought strength meant not needing help, not showing vulnerability, not reaching out. And now," Chen prompted, "now I understand that true strength is knowing when to ask for help, and true courage is being willing to give it even when it's hard." Kira's patterns glowed warmly. "You taught us that. Humanity taught us that." Chen raised her glass. "Then here's to lessons learned, to families found, to courage and compassion going hand in hand, to home," Kira added, clinking her glass against Chen's, "and to the galaxy learning what humanity already knows, that we're stronger together than apart." Through Haven Station, life continued. Engineers, human and Thessian, planned new expansions. Medical teams shared research. Children played in corridors where warriors had fought. And in the command center, mixed crews monitored sensors ready to defend their home if the swarm ever returned. But they wouldn't face it alone. Never again, because humanity had shown the galaxy something it had forgotten. That compassion wasn't weakness. That protecting refugees wasn't naive. That standing up for others, even at great cost, was the measure of a civilization worth preserving. The Thessians had asked for shelter. Humanity had built them a home and guarded it with warships. And in doing so, they'd built something greater than either species could have achieved, alone. A future where the galaxy's response to "we need help" was no longer move along, but welcome. Home. Epilogues. 6 months later, the first of the new arrivals came tentatively. The Karathi fleeing civil war. Then the Cillian refugees displaced by ecological collapse. Then others, drawn by the stories of Haven Station where two species had forged an alliance from desperation and hope. Each time the question was asked, "Can you help us?" And each time now, with Thessian and human voices united, the answer came, "Welcome home. Let's build your future together." The galaxy was learning. Compassion, backed by the courage to defend it, was contagious, and it all started the day humanity looked at desperate refugees and said not, "Go away," but "Come in."